Fragments of silicon. Just add water. Also, milk, cheese, and meat.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always are Petty and Golix. Let us get to the news. Petty, why don't you start us off this week?
All right. Well, you may have noticed we were supposed to have a Friday show last week, and we did not. Well, I woke up Friday morning in a lot of dental pain. So much so that I had to go actually see a dentist very quickly. Turns out I need a root canal done on my front tooth. And so
Those are never fun.
they are sending me to a specialist in the big city, and I'm just waiting to get an appointment on that. So they gave me some antibiotics and basically said if the antibiotics also don't help with the pain, they can give me something a little stronger than Tylenol for the pain. But I ideally don't want to do that because, been there, done that. That is not very fun. And Thursday, I got to meet some kittens. I have a new little boy who's going to be coming to live with us in a couple weeks. His name is Soul. And right now, the lady who's fostering him is also working on harness training him because he seems to be a very food-motivated little boy. So we're going to see about getting him to like a harness so that way I can take him on walks and stuff so he doesn't become a very large boy. So I'd like to see about going to see him this weekend if possible, but it depends on what else is planned, really. Because, life and so on. But yeah, hopefully, like, week after next, we can bring him home. And then we get the fun joys of, will Noise be a good older sister, or will Noise be a little demon from hell? The joys of having a cat who I don't think Noise was well socialized when she was a younger kitten, especially because she was abused. So a lot of the, like, kind of being nicer to other cats and stuff isn't in her general nature. I don't think she's going to hurt Soul, but she might scare him. So it's definitely just going to be, hopefully it ends well and I'm not dealing with, two kitties who hate each other. As far as gaming goes, not really a whole lot of gaming just because my mouth has been hurting a lot. And a lot of it's just been putting, icing it when I can and just been, like, chilling out and watching, like, stuff on the YouTube and the whatnot. I'd like to see about going to play some Digimon either this weekend or next, but again, more important things need to happen. So I guess we'll see how that goes. And I think, Adam, you having connection issues?
Hmm.
Oh, you're back. All right.
Yeah, it dropped there
All
for a
right.
second.
But yeah, I think that's it for me. So, Gulix?
I'm still taking care of the house, so I'm taking some more time off this week. I had accidentally left the water on for way too long yesterday, so I'm giving it a break today. Thankfully, it seems to have cooled off a little bit. Um, I might go to the library tomorrow because it's been a while since I've been there, and I've been meaning to because libraries are important.
Mm-hmm. My sister just
Um,
renewed her library card by email, which that's a weird thing if you think about it now.
mhm.
That used to be you had to go down to the public library back in my day, waggles my actual cane.
Yeah, the library's fairly close, so it won't be hard. Oh, and if you were wondering what the opening thing today was, uh, I decided to get some hamburger helper to make for dinner tonight because I don't cook a lot, but I wanted to do something. Uh, and it definitely would have been, well, first off, I forgot that it needed milk, and then it
Oh,
definitely
you
would have
got
been
one of the
better.
ones that need milk, yeah.
I mean, you have to get it's a hamburger helper because you need to have a pound of hamburger.
Right.
And then also you need like water and milk to make a sauce, usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes butter or whatever. And then it also has recommendations on the bottom on the box of like stuff you could add to make it better. And I kind of wish I'd done that, but it came out edible, so I'm not complaining. Uh, so yeah. I think that's most of my daily stuff. Video game wise, been playing a little bit of Pokemon Friends and going back and beating up the snow. Well, normally it's a snow weasel. This one's more like a mud weasel. To try to make sure that we get 1,000,000 of them.
Oh man.
And that's about all I got. Oh, and I'm still working on my writing project, but it's hard because
Writing
there's a
is
lot to keep.
hard.
There's a lot to keep track of when you're trying to do an action scene.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been working on action scene? Like what, 3 weeks?
It hasn't all been the same one. Some of it was the
Fair.
previous one. This one I think I've been on for 2 weeks.
Mm.
Anything else?
I think that's about all.
I suppose that means it's my go. Let's see. Mostly I've been enjoying the peace and quiet that comes with not having kids around. Like,
Yes, you have been freed of that for what, at least till maybe Thanksgiving?
not quite that long.
Oh.
Like, but we're talking restricted to weekends now.
So
Um,
less dealing with them on show days, except for maybe review days.
Fridays and Sundays potentially
Oh,
is what we're talking
is
about.
your local school district going to 4-day weeks now?
No, no,
Mm.
no, nothing like that. I'm just saying if they're off
Ah,
on a holiday or something like that. Like I think that I think they get Columbus Day off still down here. Like I'm not 100% sure, but like that kind of thing. Like or if there's a special circumstance that requires them to, which has happened in the past, requires them to be here earlier, or instead of them going Sunday, they go Monday morning or something like that. point. Point is, yeah, a lot less having to deal with the children in terms of babysitting, but not 100% free. So still, I am still grateful for a lot less Phineas and Ferb in my life. Like, I
It
know
could
that
be
show has its
worse.
fans.
It could be worse. It could be Coco Melon, and you could be actively lobotomizing yourself.
I suppose so, but look,
Baby
Phineas and
shark,
Ferb
I
fans.
want to die.
Look, we are going to have a reckoning because there is no excuse for that show to be that stale and repetitive. Like, even for children's television, this is a formula.
Yeah. And didn't it
Like,
just get a reboot?
yes. I had to watch through that, of course. Yeah. But putting that aside, I've had to deal with another horror beyond all imagination, and that has been providing tech support to my mother.
Oh, God.
Because, okay, because she is dealing with a thing where she's trying to get her sister down here because she's a nurse. Her current patient is dying, and kind of want after that, prospects where she is are slim. So, given her vocation, it kind of makes sense to relocate her to, God's waiting room.
Like a
Um,
private nurse rather than a hospital nurse.
yes. So, she's been dealing with getting her a place to live down here, and that has been involving an application process that is online. So I've been having to help out with that, and that hit a snag recently when the place required a photo ID. It's just their website was so shittily encoded that it wouldn't allow the picture to be uploaded, no matter where what device I used or what file format. It's like,
Oh.
I tried GIF and JPEG,
Oh, God.
didn't work. Had to actually go down to the office and have it done there. It got done relatively quickly, but that's beside the point. And the point is, at least for external computers or whatever, the website's shit. Like, outside of that, in terms of gaming, I have finished up Prototype 2. Looked through a few other games, but since it just came out, I have decided to play the Heretic and Hexen pack that Night Dive just released. And if you owned the old editions, you got that for free, as is the id Software tradition at this point. Now, how much of this I'm going to play is definitely up for debate.
I was about to say, you like one of those more than the other.
Well, beside that, I am definitely in agreement that Heretic is a good game, but it's definitely held back by some design choices. Even in this re-release, the enemies are still fucking spongy as to all hell. And there's there's just a lot more mobs that you fight in a given level than regular ass Doom has. To give you an idea, the second level has about 150 creatures to kill, which is well above any number of monsters you'll be fighting in regular ass Doom or Doom 2. Doom 64, different story, but even that was like at the end. Like this is like this is a lot of creatures on the regular. And I find that gets exhausting. It's why I stopped playing Wrath a few months back. Because like there's so many enemies, it takes so long to kill them that it starts becoming a slog.
Yeah.
You know, Hexen has some interesting ideas, just absolutely terrible level design. So, like I
CJ
said,
likes those games a lot, so he's been. They were he and his partner were just playing through like the originals, and I think he started over on the reboots now, or the update now.
Right. Yeah, I find it's best for me to just play a couple levels and then play something else. Like, aside from that, been working on the review games and some other like just loaded up Twinkle Star Sprites. There's a blast from the past example. Anyway, and I think that'll about do it for the news this week. So, merrily, we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Stephen Joseph of Third Echo Sound.
Hello, glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
Glad to have you. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty great. Been pretty busy. We're homeschooling my kids now, so between running my business and now homeschooling them for the day, it's been really busy.
I have no doubts. Homeschooling is definitely an involved activity, let's say, but I suppose that's all beside what we're here to talk about today. And indeed, on that front, we usually ask how people got interested in video games, but I suppose when it comes to the composer folk that we have on the broadcast, it's kind of a twofold question. What got you interested in video games, and what got you interested in music?
Video games is from a long time ago when I would be grounded to my room. I would just play Sega or the NES I had hooked up in there. And I still remember playing Jackal on that and absolutely loving that game. I still think back on it from time to time. It was such a great game. But the music side of it actually kind of fell into my lap. I growing through school, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. I was just kind of drifting through life, had no dreams, no goals, no ambitions or anything. Wasn't until I graduated high school, I went to a friend's house and he was making beats in his garage, and I was just like, "Hey, that looks like fun. I want to give that a shot." And then next thing I know, I'm wanting to compose for video games. It just kind of fell in my lap, and I said, "This is what I want to do now." And that was almost 20 years ago. So been chasing it since. Just get my name out there, trying to perfect my craft and just network. And I'd say probably that's the coolest thing about this is I get to meet so many new people, and everybody's just as passionate about as I am about gaming and on my end, creating immersive experiences. But long story short, it was a long time ago that I got interested in video games. My high school, the one game that I played religiously was Red Faction. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
I do. I'm assuming you're talking about the first one?
Yes, the first one. Yeah, I played that religiously. And then my neighbor had 007 Goldeneye on his N64. We played that too. So I'm like an FPS buff, and then you guys bringing up Heretic and Hexen. My I remember years ago, my old friend, his older brother used to play those when they first came out. It's wild to hear them, re-release. But I hope that answers your question. I tend to ramble, so if I'm going on too long, just shut me up. It's okay.
Oh, you're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Fair enough.
Indeed. And it begins to answer the question, but there's another part here, and that leads to a further question. At what point did the two passions converge? I.e., when did you start deciding to specifically make video game music and sound design, for that matter?
So the video game music part started when I was about 19. I was working on music in my room, and I had just broke up with my girlfriend at the time and moved back in with my family. I was like almost bankrupt, and it was not a pretty sight then. So, but my parents were gracious enough to let me move back in and get back on my feet. But so that's where I started my journey of writing music and finding this new passion. And it wasn't until one time when I was writing music in my room and my dad walked by and he asked what video game I was playing. And I kind of turned around and I was like, "Oh no, it's not a game. I just something I made." And he goes, "I swore that was a video game soundtrack. I think you found your calling." And that was kind of the epiphany, like, okay, maybe that's what's for me. Maybe that's my goal. Um, and then I joined a online forum at the time. It was called oh man, I can't remember the name of it now. It's so many years ago. It was like makemusic.com or something. But it was an online forum. Everybody, like, it was a bunch of musicians and stuff that shared their work. And I had so many people tell me, like, man, you need to get into like film and video games with the music you're writing. That's your thing. And so I've always been on, I guess, writing in the more cinematic kind of style. Um, so that kind of that pushed me to continue working towards that goal, and little by little just reaching out and asking game developers, hey, do you need some music done for your game? I'll pitch you a track free of charge. I just want my name on it. And little by little it started, had people coming back, and then word got around, and then next thing I know I got 5 6 more devs coming to me, and so it just branched out from there. But ultimately, the converging was that one day when my dad asked what video game I was playing. That was kind of like my eureka moment. Like, oh, this is what I should be doing then.
It's amazing. Right. It's amazing how that can work out.
Yeah, very much so. Especially, coming from my end when, I had no real goals at the time. I was kind of just drifting.
Indeed. So
Did you want to
as
hear
far
the
as the
sound
question,
design side?
yeah.
So sound design, I kind of stumbled into because a lot of times when I'm working on music, I like to layer different sounds, and over time that developed from layering different sounds to then incorporating sounds that aren't, musical instrument related, that are, for example, like banging on a crock pot and sampling that noise, and then incorporating that as something I use in my tracks. So it went from just layering regular instruments to now just going off the wall crazy and generating all kinds of new noises. Basically, I'm in my happy place if I'm messing with noise. That's my thing. My wife always laughs because I'm like a kid in a candy store whenever I come across a new noise that I haven't sampled yet, and she'll know that look I give her because she goes, "Okay, just go ahead and record it." So that combined with just my love of sound in general, and that's kind of what drives my passion for creating new noises and finding new ways of um, blurring the line between noise and music.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like, gotta say, this is a new frontier for us. I mean, we've had a fair few composers on the program, but they tend to be like strict musicians. Like I think you're the first to also work on sounds, noises, and things of that nature, which is a bit of a different skill set.
a little bit,
Like,
and I think that um, it helps me appreciate the little things much more. I think because I could be having a park day with my kids and hear something like the flagpole rattling in the wind, and then my imagination immediately takes off. I gotta go sample that noise real quick. Um, so it definitely helps me view the world a little bit differently because I can start to hear um, tracks being put together long before I even mess with the sound. I started picturing exactly how I can morph it and what I can turn it into. Um, my most recent album I released in May used a lot of sampled noises. Like one of them, I took my violin bow and I played a baking pan with it, and that noise I transformed into like this ethereal kind of pad that goes throughout the whole track.
hmm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a weird dude and I like to do weird things. I'll just chalk it up to that. But I don't know. I think for coming from that standpoint, it helps my what I do stand out just a little bit more. Because there are some brilliant composers out there, but then they're looking at me like, "How did you turn that into an instrument?" you know. So I definitely lean more into my sound design side these days as opposed to when I first started, where I was focused more on actually composing and orchestrating. Just over time, that's developed into just this passion for noise in general and just seeing what I can do with it.
Hmm. And I suppose the logical question at this point is, what have you done with that ability and know-how? Like, what sorts of sounds have you generated that have made their way into video game projects?
Okay. Um, so currently I'm working on a game called 03 Hollow Descent. And Simeon, he's the dev of that one, is um, well, he's really awesome to work with, and he's all on board for me being experimental when it comes to writing the music. Because he wants a cross between like experimental and ethereal type stuff, but he wants it split with more of your drum and bass breakbeat type stuff, which when I first started on that was I didn't I was like, how do I do a breakbeat? I don't know how to do that. So it's been a learning experience, but he's been following kind of just the random noises I find, and then I share a work in progress of the noise I found and then what I turn it into, and basically he's essentially like I want that in my game, you know. So especially if it sounds nice and like dark and twisted, he is all about that because it fits the vibe of the game perfectly. So that's still a work in progress. We have a trailer dropping next month, and then he's going to roll the Kickstarter campaign from there. So be on the lookout for that one.
Like, so is this game like in just like a demo state?
Currently in a demo state, yes. Yes,
About what I expected if it's launching a Kickstarter here soon.
exactly. So it's currently in a demo state. I've already written some of the music. There's a couple combat tracks and an exploration track that are in the demo now. And some of them incorporate some of these weird noises I found, but you can't really tell because I've tweaked them so much.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I suppose we'll have to take your word for it since, we can't really hear them at this moment in time. Like, even if we had access, it's kind of hard to do. We found it's kind of hard to do music and sounds during an interview. Not impossible, but it breaks the flow and everything. Um,
Try
anyway,
to answer the
so
question to the best.
yeah. Well, I suppose it's also worth asking what other video games have you composed and made sound fonts for?
So the actual sound part is relatively new. So my previous work, I did the music for a game called Spheriums. It's a first person shooter slash explorer kind of a game. Um, that one was largely just traditional instruments. So it wasn't until probably around March or April of this year that I started leaning heavily into sound. Um, I had always been interested before, but I didn't realize how much my skills have grown until I sat down to work on it. Um, for example, a few years ago, I actually sampled the noise of my elevator. I was staying in an elevator, and the pulley was letting out this horrific screech, and I was like, I could use that. So it ended up in my library. I haven't used it for anything yet, but it's in my library. But
That's
as far as actually incorporating them in video games, like I said, that's relatively new. So 03, the one I'm working on now, will be the first one that involves heavy sound design with my found sound and a mix of traditional instruments.
Hmm. I'm like, so it sounds like this is a very special project.
It is, and the funny thing is, Simeon asked me to compose the music for the trailer that's coming out next month, and it's traditional trailer music. It's it's got the brams and the big drums, and it's so far removed from the actual game score that it kind of threw me off when he asked me to write it. I was like, wait a minute, okay, it's a regular trailer, but um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Uh, but Simeon is I mean, when it comes to the actual score, um, the weirder I can get, the better because it's like it's an alien planet. Your character's investigating. You're looking for missing crew members of your ship, and basically you're in these huge alien structures, and he wants super weird ethereal kind of noises. Matter of fact, one of them in the exploration track, I actually have a whispering voice saying "survive," look for survivors, but it's so stretched out, it just sounds like a hiss going throughout the whole thing. But things like that, I love being able to get that creative freedom and just go wild with the sound design. I hope more devs jump on board because a lot of them, my current projects are more into the traditional side of things, which is fine. You know, keeps me keeps my skills fresh in that side. Otherwise, I lean too far. There's a time if I have a window between projects and where I'm focusing more on my personal projects, I forget how to write traditional music because I lean so far into just the sound design. You know, I'm working daily. You know, I put in well before my kids were homeschooled. You know, I was putting in 10 to 12 hour days sound design and composing, and also squeezing in networking. Some always trying to get my stuff out there, but that being said, I kind of forget how to write regular music because I get so stuck in this mindset of creating soundscapes with found sounds, that when I sit down to actually write a regular bass riff or a drum beat, and my brain kind of short circuit for a moment.
Like, it sounds like this has happened before.
Yes. Matter of fact, every single time I sit down to work on a new project, I forget what I'm doing. I forget how I do my job. Every single
Sounds
time.
horrible.
I'm telling you,
Sounds about like
it's
me.
so funny because
What does this button
I'm like,
do?
I'm like,
Do,
okay, I
do?
just finished the game last like I just finished a game last week, and now I don't remember how I did that. So unfortunately, it does happen a lot, but it's part of the process, I think.
Hmm. And how long have you been working on this current game?
You talking about 03?
Yeah.
I started on it. I want to say about a year ago. Yeah, I believe it was July or August of last year when Simeon first reached out, and I was actually really really surprised because I had seen that game come across my feed on X a few times, and I just reposted it. So I'm like, hey, that game looks cool. And he was one who reached out to me and asked if I'm interested in writing the music for it. And I was like, what, me? So it was definitely a pleasant surprise. It was not expected at all. Usually I'll know it's coming because I'll reach out to a dev first. I try to avoid cold messaging if I can, just because it feels kind of used car salesman-y. Um, but if I do, it's always to offer them a free track first. Because I'm like, hey, I saw your game. It looks really cool. Can I give you a free track? But in this case, it was Simeon who reached out to me, and I was just floored. I had no idea. Was not expecting it at all. And then when he started asking for drum and bass breakbeat type stuff, I was kind of scared at first. 'Cause I was just thinking, I don't know how to do that. This is going to be interesting. So there was a lot of back and forth initially. Like, backtrack a little bit. When we first started, he started with the exploration tracks because the exploration is more kind of spaced out and just atmospheric sounding. I knocked that one out of the park first try. Loved it. But when it came to the combat track, there was a ton of back and forth. Like, it got rejected so many times, and I would get so frustrated because I'm just like, man, this is not working. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I put this track together? And finally, after about the 7th try, I sent him that one track. He goes, "Dude, this is it. You nailed it. This is exactly what I wanted." So taking those
At
skills
first you don't
now when he
succeed,
comes
try
back,
again.
exactly, and that's what I'm trying to. The lessons I'm trying to show my kids, like uh, this trailer track, even had some back and forth because it was pretty fluid because it was kind of we weren't really sure how to do the trailer music, and there was probably about 5 or 6 variations before we settled on a regular um, trailer style track, with the traditional instruments. Um, but he had even given me the option to bow out of that project, because it was after rejection after rejection of saying the track, and he's like, "Listen, maybe I'll just buy a pre-made track and then I'll come back for atmospheric music." I'm like, "No, man, I'm not gonna quit. Like, just let me keep going," because he was stressed because he wanted the music to be done by August 10th, and this is going back to about the 6th or 7th, I think. And it wasn't until then I sent that trailer and he said, "Hell yeah, you nailed it." And that's going to be in the trailer when it drops next month. So basically, that's what I'm trying to teach my kids as well. Like, even if you fail, you got to keep trying. You got to get up. You got to dust yourself off. You got to keep going and that's one thing that a lot of developers realize when they work with me is that I'm stubborn as all get out. I will figure it out. If I get the track wrong, I'll try again, and I'll keep trying until I get it right. you know, um, which is good for them because they're looking for the music for their game. But I'm rambling again. So, any other questions?
I do. Now, in regards to like the demoized version of 03 here, how much music have you actually composed so far?
For that game right now is 2 combat tracks and an atmospheric track. Oh, and I guess if you want to count the trailer music too. So it's very minimal right now because it's still so early. Simi is hoping to, once this Kickstarter is completed, he's hoping to have the funding available to be able to pay for the rest of what he needs. But it all depends on how well the Kickstarter does. I think it'll do well because Zero looks awesome. I don't know if
what's the full track listings? Like, how big is the full OST supposed to be here?
Not sure yet. We're kind of playing it by ear. I can assume maybe 15, 20 tracks minimum.
Hello?
You hear me?
I can hear you. I think Adam might be having connection issues.
Mhm.
I cut out there for a bit. Sorry. As I was trying to ask, how big is the full OST here?
Yeah. We're not quite sure yet. We're playing it by ear at the moment. I can assume maybe 15 to 20 tracks. Usually I have a scope in hand of what's expected. But in this case, because development is still so early on, not really sure yet. So, and sometimes that does happen, and not all the time that everybody has an exact number in their mind. Just to throw another example out there, I'm working on the music for a game called Explorite. Um, and what originally started out as 10 tracks has now turned into 15 tracks because they saw a couple extra areas that wanted more music in. You know, so sometimes it could be fluid. Um, I don't mind. It's just it just gets to be a little stressful if I have other pending deadlines and they're like, "Oh yeah, we need more music in this part." Okay, guys. Yeah, no problem.
Well, has that ever happened before?
Thankfully, not that close. Not that close. Usually, I'm able to wrap things up in time where I don't have any conflicting deadlines. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen because I know how stressful that can be. But so far, people I've worked with have been very communicative and understanding if I can't get to something they need right off the bat because I have something else I'm working on. So, you know, these are all people with families too, so they know life comes up. You know, you can't jump onto everything at once. But for the most part, I usually have a pretty good window to compose and then get the music to them, and then um, not have any real conflicting deadlines. At least not yet. I'm stressed enough. I don't need to add more to
That's fair. Like,
that.
and I suppose in order to get the full scope of what we're talking about here, like how many projects are you working on at any given time? Like it sounds like you're not just working on 2 albums.
It varies. It varies. I go through. I mean, we all of us on the music and sound side of things go through. Um, there's an ebb and flow. So at my max, um, was juggling 4 projects. Now I'm down to 2 because 2 of them are done. But that could climb up to 6 or 7. You know, if I get inundated with more requests, which can and does happen. But um, I try to keep them spaced out enough so I'm not going to kill myself trying to write all this music.
Good idea, I think.
Yeah,
Like no job is worth expiring over.
yeah, exactly. As much as I love doing this, you know, I do need to set some time aside to just kind of chill and decompress.
I suppose tracking back a bit here, what were the other 2 projects that you were working on recently?
So there's a web show I'm working on called the Pocket Watch. Um, I just I just pitched the final trailer music to the team. It was a couple weeks ago, I think. All these days blend together anymore. Um, and then there was that, and then oh my gosh, I'm trying to go through my mental Rolodex here. What I've been working on. Um, I'll think of it later. We'll come back to it. I got so many so many I've worked on in the past. I can't remember what all was more recent.
I can relate to that. Given how many interviews and such, how many shows we do in a given season, in a given week, it can sometimes blend together, or sometimes something gets forgotten pretty quickly. As
Yes.
you need that brain space to handle the what's upcoming or current. Uh,
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I really should be keeping a calendar so I can, keep better track of what I'm working on. But
Google Calendar is my best friend.
See,
Yeah.
I gotta learn that. I gotta learn that.
I mean, yeah, we have our own internal calendar to keep track of things. Not just for this show either. Like, anyway, so what do you like to tinker around with musically or sonically in your spare time, if that ever occurs?
So spare time is largely for just random sound design. I use there's a method called granular synthesis, where the audio signal is chopped up into tiny bits called grains. And each grain can be manipulated and tweaked, so you turn one sound into 1,000 sounds. It becomes like a wall of sound essentially. So I like to just whatever random noises I have, because I always have my field recorder on me. Um, and I'll scroll through my folder and just pick a couple sounds at random and just see what I can turn them into. Sometimes I don't even have a goal in mind. I just throw it in my software and chop it up and see what I can turn it into. Whether it be a ethereal type pad, or um, some horrifying screeching noise that could be perfect for a horror game or something. Um, Essentially, it's just experimenting. That's my favorite thing to do in my free time, is just tinker, just throw noise out in the world and mess with it. That's my thing. Um, Leave me alone for a few hours and I'll be just peachy. It's great.
Hmm. Well, it's good that you are ever expanding your repertoire, so to speak. Um, and I suppose my final question at this juncture is perhaps a bit unusual, but nonetheless important, I think. That is, how big are your ambitions in terms of video game composing? That is to say, are you just looking to score indie titles, do the sound design here, or you looking to eventually work with like the EAs and the Ubisofts and et cetera of the world?
Actually, my biggest goal is to my brand Third Echo Sounds. My biggest goal is to actually run it as a full production house, where it's a team of composers and sound designers that get contracted out for big, like AAA projects, or a big movie or TV show.
Mhm.
Basically, I'd like to run it as a full production house instead of just me doing indie games all the time. Which, don't get me wrong, I love indie games. I love my indie developer family out there. Um, but you got to reach for the stars too while you're at it. You know what I mean?
I do. It's just some people desire that, some people um do not for various reasons. Because aiming for that kind of bigness is a very daunting task, which requires, you know, a lot more work than what's going on right now, let's say. Um, so not every, not everybody wants to go up to that scale, basically.
Right, right. But I'm stubborn and I like a good challenge, so I figured why not just go the whole 9 yards, And I think I'm off to a good start now. I've got some good connections with other composers and sound designers. Um, and I think down the road maybe they would be interested in working under one, production name. I don't know, yeah, that's my biggest goal. For now, I am perfectly content, just pulling in smaller contracts from indie dev titles, because it's like my bread and butter right now.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, you've got to, well, not so much start somewhere, but you've got to pay the bills somehow.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, I actually left my full time job in November of last year. I was an accountant for a 5-star resort for almost 20 years. And I left. It was we were going through some departmental restructuring. I was getting my director had a hair up his ass and didn't like me for whatever reason. So he just wanted to make my life a living hell whenever he got the chance to. And back in November, I was like, you know what? Enough is enough. I handed my resignation and I walked out. And I've been pushing for freelance ever since then. And it's been stressful. It's been stressful, but thankfully my wife fully supports me. And she knows I have the motivation, the discipline, and the passion to keep doing this. And little by little, things are happening. It's more pieces falling into place as time goes on. But quite honestly, for the first couple months, I was lost. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was like, because now I'm going from just writing music in my free time for a game to now I'm trying to make this my entire career. So but being that I'm at it for almost a year and we're able to manage and stay afloat and say we're doing pretty good. Um, but went off on a tangent there. I'm sorry. What was the original again?
No, I think that was relatively on topic since we were
Okay.
talking about ambition and workloads and all that stuff.
Yes.
Though another question did come to mind, and that is genres. Now, do you score all kinds of video games? Do you score like sci-fi, platformers? Are there genres that you would maybe not score, like RPGs? What's the
My
word here?
so my niche is in the kind of more horror-esque type sound. So sci-fi is also my thing. My favorite genre is post-apocalyptic. I love a good zombie game. Always been my favorite type of game. So anything of that sort, I'm all about. I probably wouldn't do like a happy puzzle game. It's just not my style. Just because that's just my creativity. When I sit down to compose, I'm in the dark and the gritty, stuff that's fit for a wasteland, essentially. Um, so my dream is to be able to score a game similar to like Half-Life. Half-Life is my all-time uh, favorite game. Gordon Freeman for the win, right? Um, so I would love to be able to score a game like that. That's my biggest thing right now. That's my biggest goal right now is to get on a team for even if it's a Half-Life mod or yeah, mod. I know what else I'm talking about. Um, yeah. So that being said, it's like I'm open minded, uh, but if it's like bright colors and unicorns and stuff, it's definitely not my vibe. I will go ahead and pass that off to my composer friends who are more into that style of music.
Hmm.
But for me, I'm all about the horror and the dark and gritty type stuff. It's my thing. I'm very good at creating the atmospheres like that. So that's my niche. And I think rolling in with the found sounds, uh, really helps it stand out just that little bit more.
I mean, whatever works for you.
Hope that answers your question.
It does. And I suppose it's time for me to ask my colleagues if they have anything further for you.
I think I'm good.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Awesome.
Right. Right. So yeah, Stephen, it was wonderful having you on the program to talk about your musical dealings and your newly acquired aural um, workings in the medium of sound.
Thank you for
And
having
we
me.
look, no problem, no problem. And we look forward to seeing the fruits of your labor show up here next month with the 03 trailer drop.
Yes. Be on the lookout for it.
Yeah. So where else can people find your work?
So I have a Bandcamp, Third Echo Sounds on Bandcamp, and then if you want to follow me on X, also Third Echo Sounds, um, and TikTok as well. I'm on there.
Hmm.
I keep it consistent, so it's Third Echo Sounds throughout. So Instagram, TikTok, X. X is my primary. I'm on there much more often than the other ones. Um, TikTok is second, but and then if you want to hear my finished work, then I got my Bandcamp. Otherwise, X and TikTok are my kind of my works in progress or my funny anecdotes for the day type thing.
Okay then. Well, so yeah, be sure to check out some of his work today. Right, Petty, play us to the next segment. Right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week, it's kind of a choice between Mario games, and the one selected isn't a Mario game. That is to say, we're talking about Yoshi's Island because last week it celebrated its 30th anniversary. The other game was the original Paper Mario, but I think we've talked about that at some point. The original Paper Mario just turned 25 years old. If you're starting to feel the joints crumble to dust, that is certainly understandable. Like, I mean, such is the linear nature of time. Because, you know, I very much had Yoshi's Island growing up. I'm not sure if I could say it's my favorite Super Nintendo game of all time. Like, honestly, there's quite a few games that could occupy that slot. Between Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 3/6, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past. A lot of the big names are gonna be there. in potentiality. That's not what this is about. About Yoshi's Island was certainly one of my favorites, and is generally considered to be one of the best Super Nintendo, hell, one of the best platforming games of all time. But not to
Which is very impressive for a game that whenever you take a hit, there's a baby that flies around screaming with an ear-piercing shriek for a limited amount of time before the stage ends. You have to go get them back.
So it is worth noting that is completely intentional design. In fact, we are going to learn some design principles here because, that is exactly the kind of reaction the brain trust that worked on this game was going for.
Oh yeah, it's important that you want to get the baby back immediately so it will shut up.
Right, and that's the obnoxious noises are, well, the logical sounds that a baby is going to make in that situation. Kind of surprising given how fantastical everything is. But, even the fantastical generally has to have some coherence and logical endpoints. Unless
Honestly, if you want to go for realistic, it's fortunate that the baby doesn't occasionally just do that for no reason while it's perfectly fine.
Right. But what I'm getting at is that is an actual natural reaction to the situation, which is surprisingly realistic for a game about cartoon dinosaurs marching a baby to go rescue his parents from an evil turtle wizard.
Because the stork messed up.
Not messed up, got attacked.
Yeah.
There wasn't I've actually, there are stories where, the stork made a mistake. Not here. This was a wanton act of malice and terrorism. Like however you want to define it, Kamek was out to, kill those babies because because they're going to be a problem in future times. But he messed up because he only captured Luigi.
Mm-hmm.
Also worth noting, this is also the beginning of the Luigi exile period, as I like to call it. Or certainly, maybe not the game that kicked it off, but certainly one
Pretty
of the
much
games
at least all of the main Mario games before now, you could play as either Mario or Luigi in a two-player mode. But this game does not have a two-player mode aside from literally taking turns.
Well, there is a two-player mode, but it's you can play the mini games.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I meant for the story, there isn't a two-player mode.
Yes, which is why Luigi gets put gets put on the back burner because he's the eternal understudy. At least when it comes to the Mario Brothers series proper.
And they can't do just like player 1 is green Yoshi and player 2 is red Yoshi because every stage is a different color Yoshi.
Yes. That doesn't make any difference. It's just for the sake of variety.
Just the format of the game is as a relay race.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
Yeah. That is the general idea, I think. It doesn't come across the best because you're not really racing. But I do think that
you're
is
just trying to get to the end fast enough.
Yeah.
Well, and dodging Kamek.
I mean, like the end of the whole game.
Yeah.
Like get to rescue the
The idea of
Baby
why they're going
Luigi and
fast is to make sure Kamek can't get their hand on Yoshi.
right.
Yeah. More specifically, his minions. They're the ones who are actually out there trying to do the kidnapping, for the most part. Kamek,
This game also introduced the Baby Bowser design that was apparently popular enough that they decided they needed to have it available during the adult Mario time period, so they made Bowser Jr.
well, okay, the babies are out of control actually because not only do they seem to be their own characters at this point, but we keep getting more of them. They keep getting more nonsensical. Baby Rosalina
Baby
should not
Rosalina makes
exist.
no fucking sense. She was at least several hundred years old.
Yeah, like, what are we doing here? Other than literally filling out the roster with the laziest possible combination.
Look, we
Like,
just really need to we really need to increase the number of characters in the lightest weight class in Mario Kart.
It's still lazy design.
I know.
But
yeah,
that's
Bowser Jr. and Baby Bowser are different characters, but they look extremely similar.
Yeah. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but if you want to talk about elevation, this is the game that actually elevated Shy Guy. Because prior to this, Shy Guys, they were one of the principal enemies of Super Mario Bros. 2 / Doki Doki Panic.
Yeah, they were mostly a Mario 2, aka not really originally Mario enemy. I think they did have along with Sniffits, had like one or two cameo appearances between in Mario games. But yeah, this is the one where okay, so Shy Guys are without a doubt the main enemy of this game. Right. Like in a Mario game, you'd have Koopas or Goombas. In this game, you have Shy Guys.
Yep. And not the first Super Mario Brothers 2 baddie to get such elevation.
Yeah, Birdo was all over the place in every spin-off.
Yeah, it actually goes all the way back to Super Mario Brothers 3 and the bombs appearing there. And then Super Mario World had ninjas. And Pokies in it. Now, I will say Super Mario Brothers 2 / Doki Doki Panic's enemy roster has never been fully integrated into the Mario universe. Some enemies are there, which we've mentioned. Some aren't. Like, we still haven't seen Tweeter show up. That was the jumping bird enemy with the mask.
Mm-hmm.
For example. And none of the bosses outside of Birdo have appeared. We haven't seen Claw Grip or Fry Guy or Mauser.
We've seen Mauser at least once, but maybe not.
It could be a mouse enemy. There's quite a few of those in the Mario universe. Mm. But the point is, this is the game that made Shy Guys not just a integrated Mario enemy, but the principal mobs.
Yeah,
as time has gone on.
The major, if you're running into a bad guy, it's as likely to be a Shy Guy as anything else.
Yeah. This is also the game that it really gave us the Shy Guy variant.
Mm-hmm.
Sniffits were there, but
there were Shy Guy variants in Mario 2.
Yeah.
But they were mostly Sniffits, and I think one of the flying enemies had Shy Guy masks, but wasn't really called that.
Ezos. That's what they were called. Yeah, they are generally considered to be a Shy Guy offshoot these days. But yeah, in Yoshi's Island, we got things like the fat guys and the stilt guys,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. This is really the game that
Was
the
Mario
jungle guy.
RPG after this or before this?
After this, but not too
Okay.
far after. Like comes out a few months to like half a year later.
I was gonna say that's a spin-off, but it does also have a significant number of guys in it.
Yes. Shy Guys are very much populate a lot of the Mario RPGs. Now that I think about it.
This game also took Yoshi from a highly promoted new addition to a real staple, and like I'd say probably 2/3 of Yoshi's signature abilities come from this game.
Well, yeah, Yoshi.
Not the tongue and the swallowing, but making enemies into eggs immediately. The flutter jump and the egg throwing and the ground pound are all from Yoshi's Island.
Well, yeah, much like Wario, Yoshi gets his arsenal here. Though in the case of Wario, the original Wario Land turned out to be an evolutionary dead end. But that's a topic for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because as you've noted, the subsequent Yoshi games have pretty much kept the mechanics of what Yoshi can do intact.
Whereas Wario doesn't really use the special hats anymore and now has more of a reputation for taking advantage of status effects inflicted by certain enemies or obstacles.
Right. Really, the only thing that carried over was the body slam.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, getting back to
technically, legally, it is a direct sequel to Super Mario World, which gives you some real dramatic comparisons in terms of how much tech on the Super Nintendo had advanced in the intervening years.
It's not a sequel; it's a prequel.
It's
at least in terms,
but yes,
in terms of the timeline. But they always presented it as a prequel in the not so much the marketing materials, but in explaining the storyline and all that stuff. I mean, the actual marketing, right in the middle of 80s attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you ever want to see a video game commercial reenact the Mr. Kreskin sketch from Monty Python's The Meaning of Life? Well, they did. Like, I don't know why, but they did it. Like, complete with the explosion and everything. Like, but how did we survive the 90s?
I don't know.
Anyway, getting back to what I was trying to initially say, and that is generally considered to be one of the greatest platformers of all time, but at the same time, much more divisive than, say, awarding that to Super Mario World. And that is down to or Donkey Kong Country. And that is down to its particular set of mechanics. Because
this game has a lot of gimmicks. And even the stuff that isn't gimmicks, like egg throwing, can be a little bit punishing to people who aren't as great at judging angles.
Yeah, it's surprisingly complicated for a game that looks like, well, this. This looks very much like a game that you would give to an 8-year-old.
Yeah, the art style is intentionally very cartoony in a kind of oil pastels way. I mentally, my mind compares it automatically to Kirby's Dream Land 3, which was very pastel crayon-y. This is much more vibrant and primary, but it still looks like it was drawn with children's drawing implements.
Right. It is also like it doesn't go the full, pastels all the time like Kirby's Dream Land 3 did. This game still has earth tones and grays because it still has underground levels, which are, darker palettes. And it has castle levels and fortresses, which are going to be gray and brown, as a Mario fortress is usually going to be. But yeah, to wit, if I gave my 6-year-old nephew Kirby's Dream Land 3, he could probably wrap his head around it.
Mm-hmm.
I could not say the same for Yoshi's Island. Like, Yoshi's Island feels like it's a bit too advanced for, a young kid.
Yeah, the ammunition management alone is a little bit, perhaps not unintuitive sometimes.
Yeah, it is a bit of a paradox, and maybe explains why Yoshi's story ended up the way it did. Well, one of the reasons. But we are not talking about that hunk of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, you did mention the advances in graphics here. Now, admittedly, Yoshi's Island achieves a great deal of that by cheating. That is to say that is because Nintendo stuffed the Super FX2 chip into this in order to achieve what they called morphmation.
This
You know,
is
yeah,
like
that
the
is how-
third game with the Super FX2 chip.
Might have been the first or second.
Well, yeah,
depending on
first or second overall, but like one of like 3 total.
Yeah, you usually associate the extra graphics chips with like 3D stuff, but this game. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it was about 4. But that's not important.
Mhm.
The important thing is, it used the Super FX2 chip in a completely different way than any other Super FX 1 or 2 chip game. That is, it used that power to enhance the 2D visuals in order to do
It
things.
goes absolutely nuts on scaling and rotation.
In fact, Nintendo gave a special name to that technique, morphmation. That is the thing that allows Touch Fuzzy Get Dizzy to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without that chip, you don't get that level, among other examples. And it also makes it a game that could, in terms of its contemporaries, really could only be done on the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the Sega Genesis would not have been able to do this because it makes enhanced use of the fortes of the Super Nintendo's bag of tricks. See, the Sega Genesis was really good in certain aspects, like speed.
Yeah.
It's a big reason why shmups on the Genesis tend to be better than the Super Nintendo. Really, anything to do with speed, you were better on the Genesis or even TG16 versus the Super Nintendo. But the Super Nintendo here could do scaling and rotation out the box, and also had a better color palette than the Genesis.
Debatable. It
which
depends on the art style, but yes.
It also allowed for better transparencies.
Yes. Just if this game were to be on the Genesis, it would probably have to be a 32X game.
Or just be completely different, yeah.
Well, we're talking about hypotheticals.
Right.
Yeah. It's more. This game is really wringing every last drop from the all the processing power from not just the Super Nintendo hardware, but the co-processor as well. This is among the most advanced Super Nintendo games ever made. Technically speaking, more advanced than the Donkey Kong Country game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the most advanced stuff in the Donkey Kong Country games took place outside of the actual console and cartridge.
Right, because those are what we call pre-rendered sprites. They were made out of 3D models.
Working
but
on
you're
those
essentially
Silicon
playing.
graphics workstations, yeah.
Yeah, they made actual 3D graphics, but then they just took captures of those graphics
Right.
and turned those and used those as sprites.
You're essentially playing. I know it's not a completely accurate analogy, but you're basically playing pictures of those models.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was some touch-up work done because they had to make it into the confines of the Super Nintendo's palette.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Not just palette, but cartridge size.
Yes. But, yeah, so arguably the only other games that are on the level, technologically speaking, are the likes of Doom for the Super Nintendo or Star Fox. And even that's using the previous generation of Super FX chip. I'm trying to remember if Winter Gold and Dirt Track FX used the FX1 or FX2 chip. I'd have to look it up, but it doesn't matter. And thank God they didn't go with the. Oh yes, the transformation. One of the things done to spice up the and break up the gameplay.
Yeah, that's one of the major things that is gimmicks, is that this game has a lot of usually time-limited transformations for Yoshi and occasionally for Baby Mario. Notably, when you get a superstar or something, and invincibility in this game, it applies to Baby Mario, and he literally gets like a Superman cape, and it runs and is invincible.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to the main thread here, I do agree that this is one of the greatest platformers of all time, but I also get why there are people who won't be able to get that.
Yeah.
Because this is a specific flavor of platformer, and it is not as accessible as a actual Mario platform.
Mm-hmm.
Or platformer for that matter. And that's going to be a barrier to entry. Personally, I never had a problem with it, but I can understand why people might. Anyway, so we got to wrap this up as we are approaching, MSP time.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing Doom and Winter Gold were the only ones that used GSU2.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was also Star Fox 2, which was technically released later, but it was planned to use it.
Yeah, there are a few planned releases that were not released.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
but it doesn't say what versions those used.
Anyway, so coming up on the week ahead, on Friday, August 15th, we'll be welcoming the Space Quest historian from the adventure game Hotspot Network. So, yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about classic adventure games and Space Quest. I am going to be very much at home here. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Kitty Builder, Net Attack, Other War, and Sumier. So, until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.